I begin speaking right now. You are watching footage of Hex, a turn-based blockchain game created by Pima Studios. As I move across the screen, you're going to notice something about this experience. It does not feel like the kind of web-based game that disappears the moment a company shuts down. Instead, it exists as part of a much bigger vision, a world where games can live permanently through trustless technology. Hex is part of a movement, the same kind of movement that once shook finance. When smart contracts first arrived on blockchain, they turned simple ledgers into programmable systems. That is how decentralized finance was born. And today, this same philosophy is starting to reach gaming. What you are seeing here is a glimpse of that future, a game that proves how strategy and decentralization can meet. As I hover over the map, you will see that Hex is not about flashy graphics or fast tapping. It is about decisions that matter from one turn to another. Every move, every placement, every resource becomes part of a deeper idea. What if your progress in a game could exist without relying on someone else maintaining servers? What if gameplay could be preserved through blockchain even if nobody is watching?
Right now, I want to set the stage before we actually begin interacting with units. There is a philosophy behind this. Gaming today still resembles the early era of blockchain finance, when everything was speculative, short-term, focused only on rewards, but missing a real purpose. Hex challenges that mindset. It is here to remind us that not everything built on blockchain needs to be temporary, disposable, or dependent on hype. While I am narrating, imagine a world where games exist as protocols, not products, where communities rather than owners carry worlds forward. I feel like Hex is an early step toward that. I am walking you into a board that is more than just gameplay. It is a signal, a demonstration that blockchain gaming can be strategic, slow, methodical, and still incredibly meaningful. As this footage continues, you are going to notice how simple everything looks at first glance, but beneath that surface, there is a message Pima Studios wants us to rethink gaming, and I think this title makes that idea clear. Before we move on to units and mechanics, I want you to take this opening moment in Hex Matters because it proves gaming can evolve just like finance once did. I begin speaking. As I guide you deeper into Hex, I want to talk about what this game is really trying to accomplish. Because Hex is not just a turn-based strategy title. You play and forget. It is part of a mission. A mission to show that games can be built to last. Games can be designed as systems that do not depend on a studio remaining alive. They can be protocols where your actions, your strategy, and your earned position do not vanish. Pima Studios built this title as a demonstration. They want to prove that blockchain can be more than speculation, more than quick gains. For a long time, the gaming world in blockchain has mirrored early decentralized finance. Projects come and go, promises rise and collapse, and most players are left without anything meaningful. Here the goal is to give gaming a new identity where long-term value and permanence are central. As I speak, imagine the intention behind this board. Every hexagon tile, every turn-based mechanic is part of a broader philosophy. This game wants to invite players into a slow, thoughtful, strategic experience where decisions accumulate, where moves matter, and where progress is tied to something that does not simply disappear. The long-term objective here is to reshape how players think about digital play, instead of temporary entertainment. Hex imagines gaming as a place where your legacy can exist. I move across this map and I think about who this serves. It serves players who want ownership. Not ownership in the sense of possession, but in continuity. People who want to know that the time they dedicate, the strategies they refine, the goals they reach will continue to mean something. The vision behind this game is to create an environment where a player's effort is not disposable, where games do not end simply because a company ends. Pima Studios wants to introduce the world to what they call trustless gaming. That means gaming where trust in a central authority is not required. The idea is to build systems strong enough, transparent enough, that communities can keep them alive. I find that powerful because when you stand inside a game like Hex, you are not just looking at units and tiles, you are looking at a statement, a declaration that gaming can escape the limits of the Web 2.5 model. As I close out this thought, remember the purpose. This is a demonstration that blockchain can be creative, strategic, even philosophical. This game serves players who want something lasting, and it aims to change how the industry views digital worlds. As this footage continues, you are going to notice how simple everything looks at first glance. But beneath that surface, there is a message Pima Studios wants us to rethink gaming. And I think this title makes that idea clear. Before we move on to units and mechanics, I want you to take this opening moment in Hex Matters because it proves gaming can evolve just like finance once did. As the match begins, I gain gold at the start of every turn. Gold is my resource. It is the foundation of every choice I make. I can spend it to place pieces that will generate even more gold, or I can spend it to summon monsters. Monsters come in different levels. You will see level 1, level 2, and level 3. Each one moves differently across the board, and each one can eat or destroy other pieces, but only if its power value is higher. Let me click on a unit. When I select it, I see a number. That number is its power. That single detail changes everything. Because this means no move is random, I cannot simply attack. I must consider strength, position, and timing. Units can only destroy or get near another unit with a lower number. If I misread the board, my unit becomes vulnerable. If I position correctly, I create momentum. Offline practice is another feature I want to highlight. Before you face real opponents, you can go to the official website, enter the Hex game page, and select Practice Offline. You configure your match, then you jump right in. This mode lets you test, experiment, and understand the mechanics before you commit to competitive play. It is a quiet, pressure-free way to observe the flow of turns. Watch as I place a unit now. This is where the game becomes a puzzle. I am constantly balancing two ideas. Do I invest in more gold generation for stronger turns later, or do I summon high-power monsters to control the map now? That tension between economy and aggression, that choice between defensive buildup and offensive pressure creates the rhythm of Hex. Everything I do on this board matters. My placement determines whether I am pushing toward another tower or whether I am simply trying to survive. The gameplay feels almost like chess surrounded by hills and creatures. But instead of abstract pieces, every tile carries meaning. Every move feels consequential. Right here, as I move this monster, you can feel how the game rewards attention. If I rush, I lose. If I think, I gain control. That slow, deliberate turn. Based pacing is what sets Hex apart. It is not about speed. It is about insight. As this footage continues, you are going to notice how simple everything looks at first glance, but beneath that surface there is a message. Paima Studios wants us to rethink gaming, and I think this title makes that idea clear. Before we move on to units and mechanics, I want you to take this opening moment in Hex Matters, because it proves gaming can evolve just like finance once did. As I speak, you might notice that nothing here depends on a traditional server owned by one company. The idea behind this technology is that the game can continue even if the developer is gone. That is what makes the concept trustless. It removes the need to rely on someone maintaining infrastructure behind the scenes. Right. Now there is something important I need to clarify. Even though Hex belongs to a broader ecosystem of blockchain gaming, there are no explicit details here showing how Cardano is specifically used. There is no confirmed information about smart contracts, staking metadata governance, or any Cardano standard being applied directly inside this gameplay. The only thing that is clearly expressed is that the studio works with a philosophy where stateful NFTs can maintain value even if a studio no longer exists, and where games operate like open protocols. I scroll across the map while explaining this, and the reason I'm sharing it is because this trustless mindset is a major contrast to most blockchain games. Most of them rely on centralized servers and vanish when funding stops. Here, the technology underneath is designed to avoid that. It is built so that assets, gameplay, and logic can survive, allowing the world to continue, not because someone owns it, but because it is structured to live without permission. As I hover over these units, imagine something. Imagine a game that one day becomes owned by its community, sustained by users where no single party needs to be trusted. That is the philosophy that powers this project. It reflects the same transformation that decentralized finance once went through, where logic moved on to blockchain and trust was placed in math. Not companies. I continue moving, making small decisions on the board, and that is how I like to explain this. Even if everything you see today were frozen, even if Paima Studios vanished, the concept promises that games like this could still remain because the model is trustless, open, and independent. So as we play, remember the exact Cardano components in use are not specified, but the philosophy aligns with what decentralized ecosystems stand for: permanence, continuity, and systems that ask you to trust code instead of a corporation.
I begin speaking as I take another turn and look at this board. I want to shift your attention to the bigger picture. What does Hex actually change? Why does a game like this matter? While I position these units, think about what gaming has always been. It has been temporary. It has been dependent on someone keeping the lights on. If a server shuts down your world, your progress, your memories disappear. Hex challenges that. It shows us a different kind of value. Here the very idea is that gameplay should not depend on who owns it. The experience should not vanish because this system is designed to live independent of the studio. That is where its impact becomes powerful. This is a demonstration that players deserve continuity. They deserve to invest time in something that does not evaporate. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And before I go, don't forget, if you'd like to receive a very short but value-packed email from me every Tuesday, you can sign up for the Cardano Gaming newsletter. Every Monday, I'll be sharing the latest from the Cardano Gaming ecosystem to help you make better decisions. So if you don't want to miss out, just go to the link on the screen, leave me your email, and very soon I'll be in your inbox. That's all for today. I hope you have a great week.